DLC. There it is! When that robotic voice chimes in, you know it's time to begin. And wherever you are, whenever you are, and however you happen to be listening, we're so glad you've chosen to tune in to DLC. So close. So close. Always so close. DLC is your downloadable commentary for the week, delivered the way we love it to be, and that is completely free thanks to our patrons over at patreon.com/DLC pod. We're just so grateful for the folks that have chosen to support this show. The number keeps ticking up every week, and I'm so grateful that more folks are jumping on board. If you would like ad-free episodes, a backlog of the VOD of the show, the video version of the show, very good video version that Christian works very hard on. If you would like an entire bonus show that we're doing on Wednesdays now called Paid DLC, check it out. Patreon.com/DLC pod. But DLC, of course, the show all about games and their many forms. Games played on desktops, laptops, and consoles. Also games that involve dice, luck, and cardboard. I'm your host, Jeff Canada, the spell with 2 N's and 1 T. And I am joined, as always, by my friend, /co-host, /nemesis. The guy who is, like me, grateful to @Jesse J. Anderson for getting us DLCswag.com. So we don't have to say this clunky way to get you over to our merch store. DLCswag.com is now a place that links right to our merch store where you can get mugs and t-shirts and hats and all kinds of stuff with that fancy new logo of ours and even the old logo. Christian Spicer. Hello, Christian.
Choo choo. Hello. Happy to be here. Also on the old Patreon, I posted a video version of the most recent Let's Chat Games newsletter. I'm going to be putting videos there. Don't worry, other newsletter subscribers. It's not going to change the newsletter, but since I very much write them as a conversation piece style anyway, I figured, you know what? Let's make a little video out of it. And the feedback's been great. So I'm going to keep doing that. A newsletter will go out first because making videos takes time, apparently, it turns out. But when they get done, I will post them there on the Patreon as well for a fun little bonus for folks to check out and engage with. It's been fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that first one. And that's the kind of thing we're hoping to do lots of, is just create more value for that Patreon. And for our patrons, we are grateful for you. You are the reason this show gets to continue. So please, if you haven't checked it out, go check it out. Patreon.com/DLC pod. But we got a lot of stuff to talk about this week. Tons of news. And we have an awesome guest to do it with. You know, the DLC always stands for your downloadable Kanata and your downloadable Christian. But this week, I'm so excited because DLC stands for Devoted Little Chunk. Because from FanByte, we have senior producer Paul Tamayo back with us. Hey, Paul.
Wow, that was unbelievable, Jeff. Once again, you took me by surprise, and that was fire. Thank you so much for having me again. I'm glad to be back. I'm honored to be back. So yeah, thanks for having me. I'm glad to, I'm always happy to chop it up with you guys.
Yeah, no, we loved having you on a few months ago, and we got lots to dig into this week. I am so excited to hear your take on all of this juicy news. So let's do it.
Wait, Jeff, hold on, Jeff. Wait, sorry. I got it. Before we even get to the way we always start the show, I need to do this. Paul, what is that sick hoodie that you're flexing and wearing that I can't quite see? And this is bad audio, but video's there and I can see it and I need to know.
Yeah, I'm celebrating today because my F1 team, the guys who I support, my McLaren guys, one of them actually made it on the podium, 3rd place, which I'm very, very happy about. So yeah, I'm a big motorsport fan, and Christian, I'm happy that I get a chance to take over at least 40 minutes of today's show, which I think we agreed to privately to discuss Gran Turismo and Formula One and everything else. Oh yeah, you did. You didn't get the email, Jeff?
Oh, you guys want to talk about the announcement that the new F1 game is going to have full VR support? That's what you That's what you guys want to talk about?
Yeah, look, I mean, I need a reason to dust off my Oculus Rift S, so I can't wait.
All right, well, let's jump in and start the show the way we always do. It's Story of the Week.
Story of the week, it's the story of the week. Story of the week, it's the story of the week.
Story of the Week is the part of the show where we make our case for the most important stories that happen in the world of games this week. You can always submit stories for our consideration by sending us an email to dlcfeedback@gmail.com. You also can give your comments or questions, anything that you think you'd like us to hear. We'd like to hear it. And the best way to do that is to send us an email, dlcfeedback@gmail.com. But there are other ways to talk about this show with like-minded folks. We have communities over on the subreddit, 5x5dlc.reddit.com. Also, our Discord, which is 5x5dlc on Discord as well. Great folks hanging out, talking games, and all sorts of other stuff. I urge you to take part. But Paul, you are our guest, so you get first pick of stories. What would you consider to be your story of the week?
It was something that I didn't even know happened until I saw these show notes. So it's gotta be Sega rebooting Jet Set Radio and Crazy Taxi, because I think by law, I'm required to talk about this because of how much I love these games. And yeah, it just makes me so excited. These are like legit two of my favorite games of all time, and like I've always scratched my head wondering why they've never revisited these series, either Jet Set or Crazy Taxi. And you know, there's a lot to get into, but it had to be this story. Like it had to be this story.
Jeff, call up the SWAT team. He talked about him. He got stand down. Paul talked about him. He talked about him. We're good. We're covered.
This is part of Sega's Super Game venture, which has been kind of nebulous, but we heard mention of this a while back, where they're trying to sort of revitalize games from their old catalog, investing lots of money and trying to create games that will be big multiplayer kind of cross-platform initiatives using Microsoft's Azure software as the backbone of all of this stuff. But we didn't quite know what it was going to be. Here's the criteria for what a Sega Super Game is: multi-platform, multilingual, simultaneous worldwide release, AAA. So now we know, or at least rumor, as reported by Bloomberg, that two of the early contenders for this are Crazy Taxi and Jet Set Radio. Crazy Taxi evidently has been in development longer than Jet Set Radio has.
Cool Ranch Taxi was right there the whole time. They could have called it Cool Ranch Taxi, and they just didn't. You know?
It was so close.
No, we don't know. The game hasn't come out yet, Christian. Maybe it will. Of course, the first Crazy Taxi hit arcades in 1999, and Jet Set Radio, the first Jet Set Radio, was originally released the next year, in the year 2000. So if you remember it, you are probably one of us, because we're the olds. But I'm with you, Paul. Have a lot of love for these games, but here's my question: what does a Crazy Taxi look like in 2023 or whenever this game comes out?
That's such an interesting question, because I think about this all the time, especially on the heels of like some recent releases that have come out in the past, let's say like 5 years or so. When you think about Sonic Mania, Streets of Rage 4, which was one of my favorite games of the year when it came out. So there are like examples of sort of finding some of that old flavor and modernizing it and making it like go back to the roots of like what made these games so great, and like just kind of reminding yourself of like, oh yeah, these games were kind of onto something. And Sega, I have like a burning like love for Sega, because I grew up on Sega. I was like kind of a Sega kid growing up. I was always I literally have a Sega t-shirt on. I have a Sega Sonic motor sport racing t-shirt on right now. So I just like, I love Sega through and through, but I think if Sega remembers what made those games great and like kind of sticks to that pure formula of a Crazy Taxi being just really fun driving mechanics. At the time, Crazy Taxi in 1999, I distinctly remember seeing it for the first time at a friend's house on a TV running at like 60 frames per second, and having my like mind blown into a billion pieces. And I think like retaining some of that in that like the overall experience is going to be important. So I worry though that like some of the reasons why I like going back to the older games is because of that simplicity and that really like, pure experience of like what made those games so great, moment to moment, and made you want to revisit them a million times in a row. Till 4 a.m. even though I had school the next day, but whatever, it's fine. Look, I made it. I'm on DLC twice, so it's all good. I think remembering that those core components in the way that like Streets of Rage 4 and Sonic Mania did is going to be crucial, and not try like the stuff that you were saying about these like things that they're trying to focus on with like multiplayer, functionality and community focused worlds and things like that makes me a little nervous, because I am an old and I prefer those things to like kind of just be as pure as they possibly can be without complicating them too much. But I would love to be surprised. I'd love to find, I don't know, some really interesting way for the multiplayer to function, if it could. And I don't know how that looks with Jet Set Radio, but I could think of really cool ways to make, we have examples of games like Splatoon and other series that have been, really influenced by that game in particular.
Yeah.
And we have that other sort of spiritual successor coming out soon, which I forget what that's called. It's like
a riff on Jet Set Radio.
Like cyberfunk something.
Yeah,
something like that.
I can't remember either.
But I'll remember it. I'll remember it one day. That makes me excited too, because I know that regardless, that spirit will live on, hopefully, within that game. So I wouldn't mind seeing something different and new, like multiplayer focused on the Jet Set side. But I'm not sure. Are either of y'all excited about this? Or?
I think that Jet Set it has a clearer path for me to this template of theirs, which is like AAA, big budget, worlds that are. It feels like these want them to be tentpole games. This super game initiative, right? They want them to be these big tentpole releases that prop Sega back up to being a major publisher. And Jet Set seems like a clearer path to that to me. The aesthetic feels ripe to kind of blow out. There's a narrative of this kind of punkish future world. I can see a more robust game there than the first game was. Crazy Taxi, on the other hand, feels harder to square that circle for me, because Crazy Taxi at its core is an arcade game. It is a wild, zany, fun arcade game. It feels like if you did it today, it'd be, a sub $20 release, this kind of fun, goofy experience, but turning it into a big AAA experience feels harder. To be honest with you, Crazy Taxi feels like a mode that you would find in GTA Online or something, or Fortnite for that matter, Yeah. So Christian, I'm curious. I know that you have a love for both of these games and Sega in general as well, like Paul does. Do you see a path forward, a clear path forward to transforming these IP into big tentpole AAA releases?
So the short answer to your question is no, and I say that for any game, right? Anytime someone's like, our goal is to be a major AAA, it's like, that's like when our goal is to create some content. We don't care what it is. We just want it to go viral. Like, that's not, no, unless you have 8 mega influencers in your pocket. No, hold on. So no, this is a tall task. It is always a tall task to make a big, Ubisoft, it's not on our stories this week, but like their latest shooter, not battle royale, but hero shooter thing. And how many have they done, right? Like, studios want this, and it's not easy. Now I'll pause and you can interject, and then I'll say what I was going to say about these games specifically.
Well, I just think there are definitely games that you hear about from studios and you go, well, that's obviously going to be like the first time you heard about Starfield. It's a new IP. Clearly Bethesda was going to make a big AAA game. There's no doubt about that. I think there are ways to make big AAA tentpole games as companies. You throw a lot of money at it and you make big, ambitious games. But I feel like transforming IP that used to be that when games were simpler into something like that is a completely different notion entirely.
Yeah, I think the key to both of these, if done well and hinted at by kind of what the Super Games Fund is all about, is the multiplayer aspect. And neither one of the franchises really had much of that to begin with. Jet Set had some multiplayer. I forget if it was in Future or if the original also had split screen. I think Future had split screen multiplayer, and I could be mistaken. I just talked about these in depth not too long ago, but already my brain's a blur. And the way multiplayer was handled on Crazy Taxi was, quartering up, right? There were some modes, but it was like you go, I go kind of thing. I could see a Crazy Taxi existing in a world that is always online and a mix of like Burnout and Crazy Taxi, where you're trying to take other people down to interfere with them collecting their fares, but also trying to zoom around the city and get things done. And it's chaotic and as a mode that kind of keeps people coming back. I don't know if that has legs. Like you and I, Jeff, we both really liked Knockout City. Knockout City to me had a lot of early aughts Sega vibes to it, even though it was not a Sega game. And I played, I know this is a clean show, but I'm going to say it, a metric butt ton of Knockout City when it came out.
Yeah,
sorry, Paul. Sorry.
Yeah,
the Virgin ears. I'm sorry.
It felt a little Crazy Taxi or like Power Stone or something.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it feels like a Dreamcast game that somehow found itself on a modern platform with multiplayer attached to it. I was actually going to bring that exact same example up. Like I think there could be. I mean, I think who better, hopefully, than Sega to sort of dig back into that bag of tricks that they were so good at doing, like in real life, right? Like at arcades where people actually gathered and had real life social interactions and played things together, even if it wasn't necessarily built into the game itself. Like I remember Crazy Taxi even having like these really wacky bonus modes where you were like doing bowling and you had like obstacle courses and stuff. And I think Trackmania and games like that have and Rocket League have proven that like this kind of thing can be simplified and made fun and piecemeal, like, get skins or whatever. And like that thing that I was saying earlier, that part of it that kind of scares me, also is interesting to think about. I'd actually never really thought too much about that aspect of it. I guess this initiative is attempting to sort of connect all of those dots, which I do find like admirable in a way. And I think like if we approach it in that sort of similar arcade sense, then I think it could make sense in a way that like sometimes for me, like other multiplayer things that get really hot off jump really don't at first, and like I kind of fizzle out on really quickly. Like I think even recently, like Halo Infinite, even though I know like folks have pretty much abandoned it, although I think they just announced their like year 2 or season 2 or whatever.
It just feels like year 2, Paul. It
just feels like year 2. Yeah, everything just feels longer nowadays. That got Halo Infinite got me back into like first person shooters. And again, being an old, like I was playing Apex and stuff like that a while ago, but I kind of I didn't really like that rhythm so much anymore. So I could see a bit of a return of like that old school flavor, just, with all of the, I guess, modern day trappings of like skins and seasons and stuff like that. I think it could work. I'm hopeful, but I don't know. Maybe the Gen Zers out there are like, what's Crazy Taxi? Like, what are you even talking about? Like,
I feel like to some extent, if you got rid of maybe the traditional racing, everything else about Forza Horizon could be a Crazy Taxi game. What I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
jump
out of an airplane and you're bombing down a volcano, like Crazy Taxi.
Yeah.
So there's possibility for me to love it.
Unlock over 200 cars, all of them with the same checkerboard paint job.
Unlike this AMG that could go like 500 miles an hour, but it has like a really cool Guy Fieri decal on the side.
It's just all yellow cab, but it's a McLaren.
Yeah, I would love it.
That's funny. Yeah, I'm skeptical about making Crazy Taxi relevant for today, just because it feels like I can do that in GTA, kind of. right? Like it feels like a subsection of a larger game now.
Or Fortnite, like you mentioned. There was, I don't know if there still are, but like the drive here, do things in Fortnite and wacky physics and I mean, I'm optimistic, and I'm also, it's not included in this story, but the new Sonic is also that, right? Like it's an old franchise that they're trying to revitalize, and the movie's doing absolute gangbusters still, which is fantastic. But does that franchise, whatever reimagining of it, the not Mania, does that pop and go big? I don't know.
That's actually a good point, because I remember, I mean, I still haven't actually seen Sonic 2 yet, even though I actually really enjoyed Sonic 1. I remember like being halfway through that movie, like, wait, this is good. Like I came here to watch like, basically what I thought was a joke. And then I was like, wait, this is actually pretty good. I still haven't seen the second one, but even just watching that like intro Marvel style, like zoom in or zoom out, I forget which way it zoomed, but and you saw like the Yakuza games and the Monkey Ball, like you saw like their universe. They're like really sort of digging into that for their, I guess, movies now. I don't know. I'm hoping that's like a good sign of things to come, because like, I didn't think, and I hear Sonic 2 is not bad either. So it's like, oh, if you put these things in the hands of people who know what they're doing and have an actual passion and love for it, then like, wow, it could be actually cool. What a concept.
Yeah. I also think that points to the genius of Nintendo over the years, how daring they have been with their franchises to never let them get stale enough that decades go by and you go, how are they going to make it relevant to today? It's like, no, they switched up Metroid. They switched up Mario, every iteration of Mario. They switched up Zelda constantly. It's like they never allow enough time to go by where the IP feels like, how are they going to shoehorn that into the modern video games of today? It's kudos to them again. Not that we need to do that, but reminds me. All right, Christian, what is your story of the week?
My story of the week is the march forward of all things Disney and Star Wars. We got reports this week that Amy Hennig's new studio is working with Skydance, J.J. Abrams recently announced and said to be in gaming side of things, Skydance New Media, to make a Star Wars game. It had previously announced that Skydance was getting into it and working with some big IPs, and I think it had been previously announced, that Amy was over there, but that they are working on a Star Wars game is the new news. And of course, Amy, it feels like, has been attached to various Star Wars projects over the years, and none of the other ones ever came to light, unfortunately. There's a leak of a bunch of media from one of the last ones that she was working on that has come. That leak showed a lot of art and stuff like that, and it looked really cool. And now she's back doing it again. And on top of all of this, I think there are, 6 active announced Star Wars games in production, where it's like Respawn has 2, Detroit Become Human, what's his name, David Cage's studio has 1, Amy Hennig has 1, there's others. Oh man, like the Millennium Falcon,
probably
Fortnite. yeah, it's everywhere. But I think it's interesting that Amy's going back at another big single player, it seems, story-based experience Star Wars game. And I hope, as a fan of her prior work that has come out and that I've been able to play, i.e. Uncharted 1 and 2, I hope that we get to see this game. That's my biggest fear.
Do you think we will?
I mean, no, just because again, kind of like, do I think Crazy Taxi or Jet Set will become big hit? Like the guess Jeff, I've learned from you over the years. Everything's delayed. Then I'm rolling it up. I'm Price is Righting you. Yeah. Nothing comes out.
Well, I will tell you the enduring quote from one Dan Trachtenberg, low on 15 years ago now. He once said to me, I'll never forget it, and I've said it many, many times since, most S doesn't happen. That's true. Most stuff does not happen. And One hopes this does, because she's going back to the well, and clearly she has reiterated many times over the years her love of Star Wars and how it transformed her life as a young person. And
Ubisoft and KOTOR. Those are the other two of my
Right.
6 that I was missing.
yeah, Ubisoft has got that Star Wars game. We don't know much about it at all, but yeah. My friend Todd Stashwick works with Amy. I don't know if he has come with her to this, but I know that they were very far along in the design process. They're as co-writers of that, basically Uncharted in the Star Wars universe kind of idea that we all saw crash and burn. I always wonder if it's like, okay, we want you to make a Star Wars game. She's like, can I use the 30% of a Star Wars game I already made?
Yeah,
or...
I got something in my garage. Like, I just got a bin of like documents that will really speed us along.
Yeah,
we got character designs and stuff. So
I mean, it's going to be harder to not make that game than it will be to just make that game that I already wanted to make.
yeah. I'm hopeful. I mean, like, I really wanted to see what that Project Ragtag was going to look like, and even just seeing those like 2 sketches that got leaked or whatever was like, oh man, like, what could have been. So yeah, I'm hopeful. I mean, like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little Star Wars out. I'm still a little bit behind on like the Book of Boba Fett and stuff, and I'm just like, I'll get to it when I get. It's kind of like with the Marvel stuff. It's like I'll get to it when I get to it, but.
Well, they made a show out of the Boba Fett book, so you don't need to read the book anymore. You can just watch.
That's great.
That's the hardest. That's the most surprising thing, I think. That if you told little kid me that there's like these shows about Boba Fett and the Mandalorian and you won't be watching them immediately when they come out, I would be like, what?
I got my man on my desk. I got Boba Fett on my desk, and I'm still like, I haven't even seen the thing yet. As a kid, I would have loved this, but I guess it kind of goes to show, like, if you're just like having so much of it shoveled at you from every direction, at some point you kind of get a little like disoriented. Like, I don't know if I'll get to it when I get to it. I'm just not gonna jump in at every time there's a wave. I'm not gonna jump in. I don't have the time for it. It's just like, I don't know.
Yeah,
well, I think. I'm in that same boat, Paul, and I think, not to throw you under the bus to mix metaphors of boats and buses, I think we do have time for it. We're choosing not to use our Severance or what's the Succession, or there's a myriad of shows that I'm sure we're all watching or have watched, and for me, I won't speak for either of you. For me, I haven't made time for. I didn't finish Hawkeye. I didn't watch Boba Fett. I haven't started Moon Knight. I love these things, and I do feel like there's too much. And then because there's so much of it and it all kind of interconnects, I feel like it doesn't give me time for other things. And I also want other things. I don't just want ice cream, or whatever. Like, I also want potato chips and cupcakes. And
again, if you told me as a kid, you won't always want ice cream.
What?
And also, terrible metaphor, because I always want ice cream.
Oh, well, that's why I didn't put words in your mouth, Jeff. I was putting ice cream in your mouth while I talked about me.
I don't always want Star Wars, but I do always want ice cream.
Yeah.
The question for me is, will there be more Star Wars games or more Star Wars television shows? That's the race right now. That's the arms race that we're in right now.
And we all lose.
Yeah. I mean, Star Wars is great. I love the fact that the universe is robust enough that it can support all kinds of different games. And I'm hoping that with these games all slated, that what we're going to see is narrower and narrower slices of that universe chipped away. And we get to see things that you don't feel like, oh, I have to involve every aspect of a Star Wars story in my game. I can just be this really narrow. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing with the TV shows as well, is they're kind of off in their own little segment of the world, doing their own little thing and exploring.
Broad spoiler. Until they're very much not.
Yeah,
that's been the problem with a lot of these things. Where
like, look who's here.
Yeah,
and even Jedi Fallen Order, I won't say it, but like, I love that game. But even that, it was like, oh well, of course,
they're involved or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm curious if all of these games you're like, I can't believe we're exploring this side of the universe. Why the heck is Han Solo out in this side of the universe? He's like, hey, buddy.
Totally invalidated my entire point, which is appropriate. No, you're right. Upon reflection, never mind.
There was a small vent in your argument that Christian managed to discover. And
yeah. Anyway, that's not to disparage Star Wars. I mean, I think I'm excited for all these games. I don't think any of them sounds like they're going to be bad. And I'm, make great games and make great Star Wars games, and I'll love those games. So
yeah,
and I believe Amy Hennig can make great games. So I'm rooting for this.
Wow, controversial statement, Jeff. Whoa.
I mean, she hasn't had a chance to in a while, which is a bummer. Yeah. But I also don't think this is going to happen anytime soon. But I hope it's a really cool, awesome, story-based Star Wars experience that I'll be playing on my PS6 or whatever.
Yeah.
All right.
Well said, Paul.
Yeah.
What's your story, Jeff?
There's so much stuff left. I don't feel like we're going to get to all of it in just 3 stories. We may have to do more. But I want to talk about the Meta Quest gaming showcase because it's a pretty big deal if you're into VR, and this is a company putting dollars into VR and promoting VR games. I do feel like we're in this weird place with VR right now before PSVR 2, where there's nothing super exciting happening because everything's kind of waiting for PSVR 2 to be officially.
Quest 3 also. Like Quest 2 is. I did notice that some of these, like a lot of these games are Quest 2 exclusives, which kind of bums me out because there are some I'd like to play, not to step on the games. But I do feel like we're in this new tech, old tech, new tech, old tech, and VR is a new tech thing. And we haven't seen the new tech yet, but everybody's apparently working on it.
Yeah, it continues to be such a bummer that VR are these walled gardens, and I'm still critical of Oculus / Facebook / Meta, whatever they're called this week, in that business plan, which is having lots of dollars, throwing lots of dollars toward this, which is thumbs up for me because I want dollars thrown at these developers. But bad news is, in order to get those dollars, they have to be exclusives, and I think that's a bummer. I mean, the good news is
not backward, not Quest 1 compatible. Right. It seems like they've abandoned Quest 1 and also abandoned Paul's Rift S, where it really is locked on their current hardware, and they don't, because if it was on PC, then I could get it on my Quest 1 through my link cable, and it seems odd that I guess they're still trying to ship units of Quest 2 and get them all on people's faces.
Well, they're selling them like gangbusters. I mean, I think there's something like Quest 2 has something like 70% of the market right now, which, is a relatively small market, but it's still, that's a big number. But there were some cool announcements at the MetaQuest Gaming Showcase. The marquee one, the big one that got everybody buzzing, including me, is Ghostbusters VR, which feels like an obvious one. So obvious that I know a bunch of indie titles have basically done that. A couple of them that I've covered on the show, but it'll be cool to have the IP, and one imagines wielding a proton pack and in VR. It just, it writes itself. There's already the big location-based VR experiences built around Ghostbusters. So it doesn't take much imagination to think that that'll be a pretty fun experience, first person in VR. Hopefully they do it well, and there's enough there that doesn't feel just like mini games of just setting traps and grabbing monsters and sticking them in the traps. I hope that there's more to it than that. We don't know much about it, but I think it's cool that's happening.
The franchise is back because it has the other Friday Night 13th Ghostbusters game where
that's,
it's like
the 13th Ice Cube movie.
Yeah.
Hey, wow, they just made a bunch of those, huh?
Chris Tucker came back for this one too, so it's a good one. But I'm curious to see which of those Ghostbusters games comes out first and kind of how people respond to it, because that's an IP that I think has been long dormant, and now with Afterlife doing well during the pandemic, and now people are kind of jumping on it again. It's exciting.
Yeah.
I'm excited that like I get to play Moss Book 2 and not have to play it on PSVR, because I've heard you talk about playing it on PSVR, and I'm in a holding pattern at the moment. I love VR. I think VR is dope, and I got a lot of use out of my Rift S. Occasionally I'll even like break it out and play some like Tetris or something in it, and just remind myself. But I really am in a holding pattern. I'm waiting for what's next, because I bought this one right before they announced that the Quest 2 I think had like USB-C support or whatever, and I was like, oh well, okay, I'm not going to do that again. I'm just going to wait until some new stuff drops and then buy it. But which is what I usually do. I don't know why I did with VR. I thought I'll be fine. I'll just drop this much money on this thing. So I am still in a holding pattern for whatever.
It does feel like
next.
Whenever PSVR 2 happens is like that next wave, that next gen of headsets. And I clearly Meta will be unveiling their next headset, but it'll be interesting to see, because it'll undoubtedly be standalone again, like Quest 2 is. To see what if they remain strategically positioned the way they are, where they want stuff to basically work standalone on the headset, which is, I think, is good for ease of use, comfortability, et cetera, but holds the games back from a visual level of fidelity that is as impressive as it could be, and I think will be as impressive as we'll see on PSVR too. But yes, I'm with you. Moss Book 2 is awesome. And I'm glad. I think this means it's also going to come out on Steam eventually. I think that announcement will be coming soon. So hopefully everybody that got to play the first Moss will get to play Book 2, and a whole bunch of other people that haven't played it, because it's great.
Oh, Moss is so good. Everyone go play Moss. What are you doing right now? Well, listen to this and then go play Moss, please.
Yeah. Some other interesting stuff. Among Us VR looks really cool. We knew it was coming. More visual of that. I think that game will be really, really fun in VR. A sort of announcement and immediate drop same day of a new mode for Resident Evil 4 VR. The Mercenaries mode from RE4 is now in VR. I haven't had a chance to try it myself. I do own RE4 in VR, so I do want to try. I just haven't had a chance to yet.
We all know that, Jeff. The assumption is for everybody is what consoles you don't own RE4 on. Everybody assumes you have it on. We all have it on all of them, and you have to specify when you don't have it.
That's so true. Cities VR looks really cool. The Cities franchise done in VR. We knew that was coming as well. No big surprise there. Red Matter 2, Aspire 2, VR franchises getting sequels. The most interesting Bone Lab looks really cool, because the Bone Works game was a top tier, I think, experience, kind of doing Half-Life VR before Half-Life VR, honestly, and doing really interesting things. So I'm excited to see what that team does next. But for me, I'm genuinely excited about NFL Pro Era, which was kind of a surprise announcement, mostly because of how much I love VR Sports Challenge, which is a vastly underrated VR game I haven't talked about in a long time, but it was a launch title on Oculus that was way better than it had any right to be. So much fun. It included a football mode, a basketball mode, a hockey mode, and a baseball mode. And the football mode is great fun. I mean, the whole game is great fun. It really is mini games for football, but it proves that you can do it in VR and it'll be a blast. And so I hope this game is a blast. NFL Pro Era, which was announced. But cool stuff, I think, from the MetaQuest gaming showcase. Nothing earth-shattering. Ghostbusters got the most press, as you might expect. But I do think this is the calm before the storm for whenever PSVR 2 unleashes all the people that have been working on VR and we just haven't heard about.
It felt cool, but very safe. And even with Ghostbusters, we didn't see it, right? It was just kind of a CG or whatever pre-rendered trailer. So this felt like, hey, we have stuff.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, yay, stuff. And it's going to be good stuff.
We promise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I do want to hit a couple of other quick news stories because there's so much good stuff to talk about. But first, let me thank our sponsor, which is Mailgun. Mailgun is how modern companies work with email. The platform's ease of use, world-class support, and powerful APIs empower smart development teams to reach real customers at scale with a data-driven approach so their organization can grow faster. Send and track your transactional and marketing messages effortlessly. Prevent fake signups and remove invalid email addresses from your list quickly. Partner with email experts to improve your email deliverability and drive higher conversion rates. Today, Mailgun helps hundreds of thousands of companies and leading brands around the world provide connected experiences and drive smart results. Mailgun empowers companies around the world to solve complex communication problems. Through its powerful email API and intuitive email marketing solutions, Mailgun controls the entire email lifecycle from pre-deployment through delivery of over 240 billion emails a year for companies like DHL, Wikipedia, Toast, Lyft, and Microsoft. Our send time optimization capability automatically finds the ideal send time for each and every individual on your list at the time they are most likely to engage. It's never been easier to build connected experiences. Start sending with Mailgun. Do it today. Visit mailgun.com to learn more. That's Mailgun, MAILGUN.com to learn more. All right, guys. There were a couple of game announcements this week as well. We had PAX East this week, which I can't believe has happened. It just feels weird to have a PAX happen. It was great. Wish I could have gone. But there at PAX East, we saw a Tales from the Borderlands announcement from Randy Pitchford, CEO of Gearbox, on stage. It was kind of just sort of a lip service to the fact that Tales from the Borderlands is happening again. Tales from the Borderlands, of course, was the Telltale series set in Borderlands, the adventure game, branching storyline adventure game. But evidently, this will be developed in-house by Gearbox, which sounds really interesting. Paul, do you have any fondness for Tales from the Borderlands? Are you excited that it is continuing? And if so, or even if not, what do you expect from this iteration of that franchise?
I actually have never played that game. I'm also not a huge Borderlands fan. I'm sorry to say. I've tried a couple times in the past, but I just can't really like gel with the just the overall, vibe, I guess. But yeah. I'm curious. I mean, I know a lot of people who really, really hold this one like near and dear to their hearts. So I'd be curious to see if it actually like feels like a continuation of that series. Because from my understanding, that one in particular, or that sort of franchise, at least from what I know, I know very little about this, but like I know that they were made by. Wait, who made them originally? Telltale. Yeah. So like,
which doesn't technically exist anymore.
Doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. So like, is it going to be like just like kind of similar watered down flavors of what that was, or is it going to be like, are people going to really consider it, a true, whatever continuation of that? I'm curious to see how it plays out, but I'm only watching from the sidelines.
Yeah. Evidently, it's been in development in secret for a while now, Christian, and we can supposedly expect it this year, a new Tales from the Borderlands. I know you were a fan of the Telltale games. I don't know if you're specifically a fan of these Borderlands ones, but are you hoping this kind of brings forward that Telltale style of adventure game?
I'm hoping it does something fresh with that Telltale style. Walking Dead Season 1, whatever year that was on Weekend Confirmed, was my favorite game of the year that year. It blew me away. Telltale did something fresh and new with that adventure game style from like Sam & Max, and they were kind of making traditional point-and-click adventure games. And then Walking Dead, while the paths branched out and then kind of came together at the end, it's not as if your ending was completely different than my ending, blah, blah, blah. but the excruciating moment of those decisions made it really compelling. And then I feel like we got that same game in Minecraft and Guardians and Borderlands and Batman.
Yeah.
And it just kind of was like and they're all very similar, and the animation felt stilted and awkward. The engine started showing its age. And now we have a bunch of folks kind of picking up those pieces, right? I think technically Telltale does exist again, but it's people bought the name and some of the IP, and some of the devs are there, but not most. And there is a new Walking Dead being made, and now Borderlands. So I'm very curious, kind of looking at all of these Telltale. Wolf Among Us, a new Wolf Among Us is being made as well. I'm curious if we look at all of these successor or spiritual successor Telltale games, I bet somebody nails it, and that's what I'm hopeful for. I don't know which one it's going to be. The good news is I like all of these IP, so like I'll wait, get some reviews, and then see which one nails it and then play it. But I do think the formula needs to be shaken up from what was the last one? Batman, before they kind of all went under. I think it just felt guy walks across screen, gal walks across screen, talk. Difficult choice.
Yeah.
New guy walks across screen, and it's like,
although what if it was Robert Pattinson and he was just really creepy the whole time, the way he is in the Batman? That could be.
If he's got a vape pen on that belt, I'm in.
Yeah.
You know what the Telltale games needed is more emo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, now you are both speaking my language. So yeah, I've changed my answer. Jeff, you found that hole in my argument, and I'm all in.
I do think I know the recipe for me getting excited about this Tales from the Borderlands. And that is, it is Tales from Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is what I'm hoping it is, because that game has all of a sudden made me care about Borderlands again in a big way. And that would be so fun if they made an adventure game that played out like a tabletop role-playing experience and used that humor and irreverence that Tiny Tina's showcases, and it has all that fun setting. Yes, that sounds great. That sounds great fun. But there's no indication that's what it is, but there's the potential. I think they should go all in on Tiny Tina's, by the way. I think from their perspective, that is, a divergent path from Borderlands, that they're not, that's not the main series, but I think it is greater than Symbol, the main series for me.
A friend pointed out, and I had missed this when it came out, Tiny Tina is rated T for teen.
Yeah.
And the Borderlands games were all M.
Yes.
And I feel like that restraint really helped them in Tiny Tina's, because they couldn't just say foul language over and 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 over again.
It actually makes the game more fun in a weird way. Yeah.
I think it elevated the humor. They couldn't just be sophomoric toilet humor all the time. And
it's a little sophomoric still, but in a less on the nose way, less I don't know, less crude way,
less on the toilet.
Yeah, less crude. Yeah. All right. One other story is we got the announcement of a new World of Warcraft expansion called Dragonflight. This, of course, on the backdrop of all of the stuff we've talked about over the last 2 years from Blizzard and Activision Blizzard.
And the COO of Facebook COO was Cheryl's role, using her political will to cover up restraining orders that were taken out against her then boyfriend, Bobby Kotick. Sorry, did I interrupt with that?
Unbelievably unbelievable. But there are hundreds of people working on this game that had nothing to do with that. And I think we saw WoW, as somebody who has played World of Warcraft for, since the day it released. I was there on day one, and have come back for every expansion and feel farther away from World of Warcraft than I've ever felt from it in that decade and a half. It has never felt to me like, oh, I will never play WoW again until now, and then here comes an expansion where we get the announcement that really only showed a very very non-specific kind of generalized cutscene. It's not the kind of cutscenes you get from Blizzard usually with these announcements where it's like Sylvanas and Gul'dan and like all these big characters from our universe and it's dire peril. This was much more sort of restrained, and it's like, hey, guess what, everybody? There's bleeping dragons, and you're gonna get to ride them.
Y'all heard of dragons?
You like dragons? I feel like, I mean, clearly this expansion's been in the works for a long, long time, but it also feels like I'm gonna get you to like WoW again and get super excited about WoW again, and here's how. Dragons, and I gotta say, it had me tingling a little bit.
It got you. It got you.
It got me. Not because the trailer is particularly awesome, but it's like, yeah, I want to fly dragons, and I want to be a dragon, and I want to have the new class and race dragon stuff with the dragon things, and I can do dragon stuff. Yeah.
Now you know why I like Gran Turismo so much. Just replace dragon with car, and you can see where I'm coming from.
Somewhere there was a production meeting, and some narrative producer was like, okay, here are the storyboards for our big trailer for Dragon Isles. It's going to be incredible. This is the big villain. We're going to bring back, remember this big villain from way back ago? We're going to bring them back. It's going to be incredible. Here's a cinematic. We're going to have our animators working on it. Here's some sample animations. And it's going to be, because what we're really introducing is dragons. And then someone was like, get rid of that. Get rid of that last one. Just the dragon one.
Just the dragon. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the details about the expansion sound really cool. There's a new race called the Drakthir. It is the first ever combination of a race and class. It is going to be, the class is going to be called Evoker, which will be either DPS or healer, depending on your specification or specialization, excuse me. And yeah, you're going to get to ride dragons immediately. You don't have to earn flight, I guess, in that expansion. You'll be able to ride dragons, and you'll have like a
weird
little...
the way the dragons are named. You still paying us, which I felt like was a little on the nose. But
got you, suckers.
It's raising the level cap, and there's dragons to ride, and you get.
I'm curious though, as someone who knows nothing about World of Warcraft, although I do know a little bit about Final Fantasy 14, because shameless plug, thelinkshelf.com. We got a Final Fantasy 14 vertical over at FanByte that y'all should check out. But is this new, dragon stuff? Is it enough to you think maybe, maybe, I don't know, compete with the rise of Final Fantasy 14? Because I get the impression as an outsider that I think people are flocking to Final Fantasy 14.
I mean, I think that's the question, right? I think that's, to me, it's funny. If you had told me last week, if you had asked me last week, will WoW is WoW receding, and will it ever rival Final Fantasy 14 again? It felt to me like the graphs were intersecting on the one was going up and one was going down type of deal for a long time, for years, and certainly world events and news events at Blizzard didn't help that, but it also wasn't the only reason for that. And sure. If you had asked me will WoW ever be a dominant MMO again, I would have said I genuinely don't think so. And then this happened, and I'm like, maybe they can pull a rabbit out of a hat. It does sound
dragon,
like
Jeff, a dragon.
Dragon out of a hat.
It's just so Cool Ranch. It might actually work.
Exactly. I don't know. I wish I don't know. Christian, do you have any? I know you're not a WoW guy. Neither of you guys are WoW guys, but this does feel like it's cool enough that it feels like a return to something simpler. I mean, to give you context, I don't know how much either of you know about this, but the last expansion was literally the afterlife. It was like, we've done everything. We can't, I guess you're just dead the whole time. And there's still ways to die when you're dead. I mean, there's some cool stuff about Shadowlands, but it did feel like wow, we are really far from where we started from. You know, like you are in a place that is at the afterlife and it's weird. And this one feels like, no, man, it's dragons.
I have no this is just anecdotal, just seat of the pants here, I'm wearing shorts, seat of the shorts. I wonder if this is a reflection of that plateaued lifespan of WoW. You know, I'm not saying this won't be great, I'm not saying this won't bring a lot of people back to the yard and they're like, it's better than yours. But I do wonder if, you know, it's like, this is our budget. This is what we can do. Like you said, not only did they reach the afterlife already and expansions and how far that got from where it started, they've also restarted where they started.
Yeah.
You know, like,
yeah,
it's a snake getting its tail. I don't know what else. I mean, even with this, it's like there's a new class and a new race. Hey, where'd y'all come from? Shut up, panda. Okay.
Well, that happens a lot. I mean, that happens a lot. The pandas had that happen with the pandas.
Yes,
like
that's what I mean. Exactly.
Yeah,
That's why the pandas are being told to shut up. They did it themselves. You know, it's like the joke of LeBron, that the guy on TikTok who does like LeBron impressions when he's like, I'm 36. I'm 30. It's like, how do you keep going? You know, you're the best ever. And then at some point your knees don't work anymore. And when do WoW's knees fall apart? I don't know.
Hopefully not as quick as Overwatch's, but that's another discussion. Oh, sorry. I just had to throw a little shade. I'm sorry. A little shade on DLC.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if Overwatch can pull a dragon out of their hat because, you know, it's possible that they're going to be in beta at some point pretty soon. Anyway, I'm excited about this expansion in a way that I didn't think I could be, and it's not because I've never flown a dragon in WoW. I own many dragons as riding mounts, many dragons, but there's something about like it's an entire expansion of dragons. There's dragons everywhere.
You're gonna tune your dragons. You're gonna like, do some lap times.
Yeah, it just sounds rad.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we'll see. I'm sure that it's not coming anytime soon, but I can't wait to find out more. And I'm like, I'm excited about it again. All right. Let's talk about the games that we have been playing in a segment we call the playlist.
Ooh, what you playing this week? Tell us. Ooh, what you playing this week? Tell us on the playlist.
Paul, there are a lot of really...
What you playing this week? Tell us.
I don't know why I did that. Fun. Paul, there are a lot of really excellent games out right now. So many to choose from. What is at the top of your playlist?
I think the thing always at the top of my playlist and always in my heart and on my head right now, actually, on my head, is Gran Turismo 7. I love that game so much. I've been waiting for it for a very long time. I have like talked about this on so many pods, so I'm sorry if you're listening to me again on a pod talking about Gran Turismo, but get ready, get comfortable for the next 10-15 minutes. I love this game so much. I started on Gran Turismo 3 way back when, kind of really kickstarted my love of cars and racing in a way that I didn't necessarily realize until like a couple of years ago, which is really interesting. But yeah, I have been, so I have a little sim set. You can actually see it in the corner of my camera. Well, you guys can see it in the corner of my camera. I have my little wheel back there. It's on a little stand that I have that I can kind of fold up and put away if I wanted to. But yeah, it's just my, like, sometimes it's the first thing not the first thing I do in the morning, but I'll carve out some time before I get to work, just to, like, you know, do some lap times, try to do some mission challenges. And I just completed all the GT Cafe missions, and I have been really, really diving into the game in a way that I was pretty sure I was going to. I knew that I was gonna, you know, dive in head first and just never come back up really. And I've kind of been there for a while, even though I don't play it as much as I would like to. I've kind of been away and I've been doing a bunch of other things. But Gran Turismo is such a, to me, is like such a like technological feat in so many different ways, and sort of, you know, divorced from the conversations around the weird pricing and money things that are happening at the moment with that game. They're still trying to figure that out. And like, for me, it hasn't necessarily affected anything, but I get the frustration and I agree. And the fact that it's always online is a bummer. There are things to the game that aren't perfect. Like even the physics model isn't perfect in a couple ways. In certain cars, you have to really, you really have to compensate in different ways by tuning it a certain way. And this, besides all that, the way the game really teaches you like actual like racecraft and like race IQ and these really interesting practical things that can actually help you in real life, like drive better. It's so cool. Like I remember a while ago when I was traveling, we went to and this was before Gran Turismo 7 came out, but I was already doing a lot of sim driving. We went to like a karting track in Florida somewhere. Like we, drove some gas powered cars around a track. And a lot of the lessons that, I was learning in Gran Turismo about like the racing line and, centrifugal force and how to brake in a straight line. All these things were like really helpful in me actually getting like a pretty decent lap time as someone who was like stepping into that cart for the first time. So like, the sim racing side of things, the tuning side is an aspect that I didn't see myself getting into, but I you kind of have to at a certain point. You have to like really understand what's happening to your car when you reduce the weight and you're adding different intakes and coolers and parts to the engine that like are still kind of foreign to me. Like I love cars and racing, but I don't love them to that granular detail quite just yet. I'm still learning about a lot of that stuff. But Gran Turismo is really that sort of educational tool that really holds your hand and tells you, hey, yeah, when you lower the car, this is what's going to happen to the car if you do this a certain way. So it really holds your hand and tells you what you're doing when you do it. And it helps you understand what the car is doing and how to handle it better and ways to sort of, apply a little bit more finesse as opposed to just hammering the gas all the time. So it's like the game is a infinite well of things for me to just constantly get back into and pull stuff up from. And like, I'm not even talking about the replays that I love to watch after a race, and I can sort of study it like game tape, where I'm trying to understand why I might have spun out here, or why or that cool overtake I did in the final lap or whatever. It's like it's just such a beautiful experience if you happen to be into motor racing and cars. That it's like, I'm surprised. I've said this before, but I'm just shocked the game isn't like $1,000 or something, because it's like, it really is this amazing learning tool.
The game definitely can.
The game can be. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and I actually haven't had too much of a problem with that, because I am a go hard, and I got the special edition one that comes with 1 million credits or whatever. So I never really had the problem of like, oh, I'm short for cash or whatever inside the game, because I guess I always had that starting boost of money that I got with my pre-order. But even then, like, I think just doing the circuit experiences where you actually have to learn the track, like sector by sector and turn by turn, and just doing regular missions and races, you can get a lot of money. Like you get that stuff pretty quick. But I think people have just been really sort of conditioned by the Forza Horizon 5 ification of like just throwing cars at you and giving you wheel spins for cool shades, and never mind, it's a truck actually. That it's kind of bizarre for Gran Turismo 7 to just like really slow you down and say no, you have to work on this one car in this series of races. I think it's kind of cool. I think it's a wonderful experience. I mean, Christian, I know you've been playing it, right? Yeah. How far along are you in your motorsport life?
I haven't bought my wheel yet, and I know you've talked about it, but for our audience, I do want you to talk about your wheel. But before that, what I want to talk to you about with this game, Paul, is I love how it doesn't talk down to you with this stuff. Yeah. It's not like there are some games and not, trying to go a sim approach, but sometimes there are games where it's like trying to be cheeky and it's like, hey, idiot, or whatever, or like that's kind of the attitude of the game. And the attitude of Gran Turismo is not that. Like, it is jazz. You are sipping an Americano, and someone is politely describing to you G-force and understeer. And you're oh, interesting. I had no idea. And I feel like you either love that or it's not enough. And I'm, perhaps odd, where I love Forza Horizon and I love pop punk and being dropped out of a helicopter onto a volcano
same.
with fireworks going off. But I also love my con law professor sitting me down and telling me the difference between understeer and oversteer and how I'm not going to drift this front wheel drive car the way I think I'm going to. And I'm like, thank you, sir. You know, this is, I feel this, I like this blanket, and this is wonderful tea, by the way.
And you get a nice hug, and you know, you get to go on your way. And it's like, I love you too, man.
So what's your wheel, and when did you start wheeling?
So it's all been kind of a blur, to be honest. It all started at the top of 2021, mostly because of like the pandemic. But it started mostly at the top of 2021 by me finally deciding to check out Formula One, which I did, and that's another rabbit hole that I've tumbled down. Obviously, I'm being a goofball wearing a McLaren hoodie right now, but
Netflix is a great entry point to that. If you want to get sucked in, I'm not saying you should. You should. No, you should. But if you want to.
So I got into but and also, like, you know, for years, even prior to that, I've been getting back into GT Sport, just like watching a lot of this one particular YouTuber, Super GT, who I love. He's a great YouTuber. It's great to watch and understand, because he kind of like just plays his replays of the race, and he kind of commentates and gives you an idea of like what he was thinking, what was happening in real time, which is really helpful to understand the dance that happens in a motor race, which is like there is a sort of like, you know, an order to things. Like it has to be sort of choreographed, otherwise it's, you know, not fair, and it's also dangerous. So there has to be this sort of like rock paper scissors things that happens around turns or whatever. So that part of it really fascinated me. So I decided to get a wheel. I got a pretty cheap entry level wheel. It's a Logitech G29. I got it again at the top of last year, and I got the pedal and the optional shifter with it. And I was using it on my desk for a while until, you know, it just didn't feel safe. Like every time I would take a hard turn or hit a curb, like my monitors were wobbling. I was like, okay, that's probably enough of that. So I got the stand eventually, and
need the optional seat belt attachment.
Yeah, I you can tell I'm halfway there. I just gotta get to it.
Yeah, get the 5 point.
Yeah. But it's been great. I love to drive. I think like driving for me is like very therapeutic. I also just like, you know, I do love going fast in a sports car, you know, in a safe, controlled environment. I'm not advocating for street racing out there. Everybody be safe. But there is a beauty to these machines and how they behave, and there's such an interesting it's a beautiful translation of that when you introduce a wheel and pedals and shifter. If you want, I mostly use the paddles for like the really, really fast cars, but I'll use my shifter. I taught myself how to drive manual that way using some sim racers and sim driving games on PC. So there's a fun mindfulness that you get when you're driving on the wheel for me, where like it reminds me a lot of playing something like Tetris, where I'm obsessed with Tetris. I've always played Tetris since I can remember. It's like my first memory of a game was me playing Tetris on the NES. And I get into like this flow state where everything else kind of shuts off, and you know, it's like that Tetris effect thing where I can only focus on that, and I like, it's meditative. I can feel my breath, and I take a deep breath, and that exact same thing happens to me when I play Gran Turismo on the wheel, where I always find myself like on a straight when I have a break to like, it's funny when you have like a break when you're going like 250 miles an hour, but it's like, okay, I can actually like take a breath. I find myself inhaling like a real big breath, and I'm really calm. I'm really calm and focused, and I'm in this like zone that I love to be in. I love to be in that really on that edge, you know, like that constant edge of just losing it. That's where you kind of have to be in order to like actually go fast. And there's a beautiful delicacy to the way racing happens. Unfortunately, it doesn't get reflected that way in Gran Turismo, whereas on PC, if you hit a barrier or something, you know, you'll see the damage happen and you're like, oh, it looks horrible. But on Gran Turismo, it's, you know, it's just like that damage doesn't exist at all. You might see some effects happen and stuff like that, but I love it. I love it so much, and it's such an interesting. Playing it on PS5 on my big TV, it's so nice to experience it that way as well, because like I can't really think of, outside of like Flight Simulator and maybe some things in VR, like you know, if things are mapped correctly, I can't think of other games that give me that like one-to-one control of a thing, like of a thing that's actually real and actually behaves pretty realistic, like if you were to actually do this in real life. So yeah, it's fascinating. I love it so much, and it's just like my daily meditative thing that I work on every day and get better at, hopefully. And I have like shown signs of, I have a Twitter thread where I upload clips and photos of stuff that I've been up to, and you can sort of track the progression of like, you know, ways I post my L's too. Like, you know, if I spin out and crash, I'll post that and be like, oh, here's how I lost one race or whatever. Because yeah, it's just like fun to take on a new hobby and get better at something and on the wheel. But at the same time, I'm rambling. I'm sorry, but
no,
I am here for this, my friend.
Okay, cool.
Same with me. Honestly, I'm not the guy who's gonna share that love
Sure.
in any sense, but I love hearing you talk about it. It's anything, you know, anybody that's passionate about a topic, it's immediately interesting, and hearing your passion for it is so fascinating. Do you think that because it has real world application, you feel a bit more inclined to put the time and energy into it? I mean, we're all game hobbyists. We love video games, and I don't think any of us feels particularly guilty about devoting time and energy to a game. But it feels like, hearing you talk, maybe there's a freedom in knowing that it also develops a skill outside of just playing a video game.
Yeah, totally. It also, for me, I mean, as much as I would love to be able to buy a car and take it to track days and maybe even race, like, you know, in my fantasy world where that's possible, and I'm actually brave enough to do that because I'm actually a big chicken, I'm a big baby. I'm probably not going to do that because I do like watch actual amateur racing and a bunch of professional racing as well now. And there is it is scary. It's a scary thing, you know, like cars are very scary, and I've seen some pretty gnarly accidents and stuff where thankfully folks walk away because a lot of stuff is really safe now, but also there's still that danger where something can go wrong and you might not necessarily be all right after that crash.
Hey, you knew I was going to pit you into the wall. You knew I was going to pit you.
Yeah, like it's scary, and I don't have the budget to do that in real life as much as I would like to. So having a simulated version of that lets me do that across, like, you know, 20, 30 tracks around the world in a single afternoon, and doing it in cars that are simulated pretty realistically, like in Ferraris and stuff that I could never really afford. So it's like there is that aspect to it that, like, oh, there are some of this could translate to me actually getting behind the wheel of a real car, you know. Well, probably not all of it because there's bunch of buttons and switches. I don't know what they do, but there is like a really cool that sort of sense of progression is fun to take in, because, like, again, being able to, I remember the first time plugging my wheel and trying to take I forget what car I had, but I was trying to take a car out on the Tokyo Expressway with like my manual shifter, and I was just crashing into every barrier and I was spinning out everywhere. And now I can actually do those races like pretty well. Like, you know, not want to toot my horn too much, but like I can do them pretty well. And even on some nights when I don't want to use my wheel, like sometimes it is kind of cumbersome to set up and I just want to get a couple races in. Playing on the DualSense is incredible. Like I think they have found a weird magic with that formula that they've obviously been perfecting for 25 years. So it makes sense that it would feel this good and you know, communicate a lot of information to your hands that sometimes the wheel doesn't. At least my wheel doesn't. Mine's pretty cheap, but like, you know, the resistance in your brakes sometimes, or like if you hammer the gas too much out of an exit and you feel your rear tires sort of spin you out, like your controller will communicate that to you in a way that's faster to react to than actually seeing it visually. So there's a tactile and like reflexive visual thing happening that like I don't get from other games. Maybe like Elden Ring, like I think that's kind of a similar vibe where you have to sort of really be, you know, on it. Like you have to be like frame perfect, but, you know, or fighting games or whatever. There's probably a bunch of games like that. But with Gran Turismo, you know, with the wheel and like my feet, you know, moving the pedals and the clutch, if I'm shifting, there's so much more control happening. Like, you know, like just using my body that it feels a little more satisfying than just using my hands. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's a whole world. Like there's a whole, you know, YouTube world and Twitch world and influencer world of sim racers, who one of which actually I think went over to Formula 3 or Formula 2 recently. And someone in the Twitch chat actually was talking about Jimmy Broadbent, who's actually a sim racing YouTuber who races now for real, like in real life, which is like there, Jeff, to your question earlier, there is a little bit of that glimmer in my eye of like, wow, maybe I could be a good racer. I don't know. McLaren, call me. I'll be a test driver.
Call me. That's awesome, man. I love it. It makes me a little worried about you for when the whatever, however long it was, 3 or 4 days when no one could play Gran Turismo. What did you do? I feel like your whole world must have come crashing down.
I didn't even know, because I was like, I think I was away somewhere, and then I came home and I was like, oh, I can't wait to play some Gran Turismo, baby. And I turned it on. I was like, wait, what? I can't even like play like my campaign, like my single player stuff. That was a bummer, but I was okay. I'm like, there's again, going back to our conversation previously, like there's a lot of stuff that I can get around to, and there's a lot of books I should be reading and stuff that I should be doing and people I should be calling, that I was like, I'll be all right without Gran Turismo for a day or two.
Day
which
3,
I was,
though, watch out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
it was funny. Sorry, go ahead.
My last question about this is, do you feel this way about Forza Motorsport, or is Gran Turismo unique to you? I mean, do you get excited when a new Forza Motorsport comes out, or is this the franchise?
This is the franchise for me.
Mm-hmm.
This is the one, I think, for a lot of people too. Going back to GT1, is like, this is the one that got people to love cars. And I think like Christian was saying earlier, like the sort of reverence the game has for car culture and the engineering and the actual sport aspect of it, which I think a lot of people downplay, which is so curious to me, because it's a physically demanding and exhausting thing to do. Just like hurl your body around the track at 250 miles an hour while you're pulling like 5-6 Gs. Like I think a lot of people don't understand what that's like, especially under different conditions and weather and stuff like that. So yeah, I forgot what your question was, but I started talking about
just comparing Forza to GT and why they're after you right now.
I know. I'm so sorry.
You shouldn't have been doing this entire podcast literally driving down the road. It was
yeah, I know. That was a bit of a mistake. I apologize. Yes, I love Forza Horizon. I didn't really play a lot of the Forza Motorsports. I played one or two, but they don't have that, like, there's a little like magic. There's a little sazon with Gran Turismo that doesn't exist in a lot of the other, in my opinion, racing or sim games that like. I've played the hardcore ones on PC, and those are fun, but if you shift wrong, you break your car, and it's like, oh, that's not fun. And Gran Turismo is not as punishing as that, and I think it does a good job of giving you that. It's more of like it's a simulation racing game, but it does have some arcadey aspects to it in a way. But I think the inclusion of all of those learning tools, where it teaches you about the track, and it teaches you how to, basically drive a course sector by sector and perfect a thing, really is like, it's really beautiful to me. Like I think if people want to learn how to race and are interested in racing, I think Gran Turismo is the place to start, because it kind of holds your hand and teaches you about different categories, and even down to like the tuning aspects. Like if I'm hovering over like what my, I don't know, compression rate or whatever that means for my suspension, if you press square, it'll tell you like, oh, okay, so here's what you want to know about this. Like it's so kind to you as like a learning tool, that it never really feels like it's judging you in any way. Like Christian was saying earlier, it's like, it's just like your buddy that also loves motorsports, but also is, helping you fall more in love with it. It's great. I love Gran Turismo. I could wax poetic about it for hours.
It's lovely to hear you talk about it. Honestly, really cool. What else is on your playlist?
I'll go through these pretty quickly, but I've also been playing Elden Ring, because Elden Ring is probably one of the most amazing games I've ever played in my life. That's still to be determined, to see how far I get into it. But I generally bounce off of FromSoft games, even though I like them. I played a good chunk of Bloodborne, and I streamed it actually. And not to brag, but I was pretty good at Bloodborne. And this, I'm sadly I can't say the same is true with Elden Ring, but there is I find myself so drawn to it and so hypnotized by the things that it's doing, and it's like the that pure adventure feel of like a game that doesn't really tell you much and doesn't want to hold your hand. Sort of like the opposite of Gran Turismo, doesn't really want to hold your hand. It's not interested in doing that, and wants you to actually pay attention to the item descriptions and like, you know, things that people say. And like maybe even like I would highly recommend having a notebook playing this game. It's like one of those things where it genuinely does feel like an adventure. I was talking to my brother last weekend about where we were in the game, and you know, talking about things like, oh, did you find the dragon at the lake? Did you kill the dragon at the lake? And it's, you know,
Did you hear
that's
that,
early
Jeff?
spoilers.
Dragon.
Yeah, there's dragons.
And
there's dragons.
I didn't tell you guys this, but I'm also a huge fan of lakes.
Oh, nice. You're gonna wait till you get a load of Elden Ring. But yeah, no, but I'm really enjoying it. I've had a couple moments where I've had to ask for some assistance from friends online to come help me, like, you know, beat up a boss. But I'm loving it. The sense of exploration, the little details throughout, and like how spooky it is overall too. Like it is just doing so many things that I wish more games would do, in the sense of like, again, trusting the player, not needing to explain everything and put breadcrumb trails everywhere. It's kind of like, it's interesting because I've been hearing you talk about Horizon, and I remember playing the first one the first time. It's actually kind of tragic that Horizon continues to come out around other incredible open world games that are just seminal, like throwing the rules,
genre defining games of a generation.
Yeah. And you know, I made the mistake of playing the first Horizon after playing Breath of the Wild, which to me was like, that Breath of the Wild to me was my favorite game of that year, and it's definitely in my top 5 of all time. I love Breath of the Wild for those same reasons, the sort of sense of exploration and not always holding your hand if you don't want it to, and you know, letting you stumble, get lost, and make up your own stories. That's like one of my favorite things about those open world adventure kind of games. I think back to Breath of the Wild, Metal Gear 5, you know, a lot of these games that like were really important to me in that sense, like of just being able to get lost in a world like that and make my own stories of like ways that I barely made it out of a dungeon, like, you know, with a pixel of health, and just like, wow, I can't believe I did that. Like I actually did that. I got the treasure. There's something beautiful about that, and I think FromSoft has perfected a lot of that formula, especially with the combat and the lore and the stories and the characters, the music, the atmosphere. It's just it's so easy to get lost in, and it's a pleasure to get lost in, even if it's like scaring you to death the whole time. I can't. I'm only like 40 hours in, which I know is a lot, but compared to the hours that I hear people are playing with this game, I'm like, oh God, I'm going to be playing this game for 5 years, and I'm okay with that. It's going to be like a series of books that's going to take me forever to get through, and I'm okay with that. Like I'm happy to do that, you know.
Yeah, I love it. You speak eloquently about both of these games, and both of them, I'm standing on the sidelines going, I want to feel that. I will get around to playing Elden Ring eventually. I promise.
But that's okay though too, because I'm like that too with a couple of other games that I know people adore, and I'm just like, I just don't get it. Like, I'm sorry, I just don't understand, and like I've tried, but I just can't do it. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. It's one of those things where it's like, it's totally fine to be able to at least at the very least, you know, read a couple, you know, really interesting opinion pieces on it, and watch a couple video essays to really extract the lessons that are being learned from this one, because it is pretty abrasive. It is kind of one of those games that is hard to get into. But I wish you could find the love for it, but maybe it's like Horizon with me. Like I had to just like walk away and come back, and I actually wound up loving the first Horizon. I haven't played the newest one yet. I'll get to it eventually, but it's going to take, I'll probably have to do the same thing I did with Breath of the Wild, where I'll need some time to let Elden Ring just sort of wash away, and then I'll forget about it and then play Horizon, because I want to play Horizon. It looks gorgeous, and I've heard nothing but great things, but it's tough for me to separate and compare those two experiences so close to one another, because to me, Elden Ring is like, you know, breaking the mold, and Horizon, at least from the outside looking in, I haven't played the second one yet, but I have experience with the first one, feels like a game that I've played before, and you know, there's a lot of those same beats are being hit, but I'm still happy to see those things happen, and see the new ways they're also trying to experiment with breaking that mold. So yeah,
I think I'm going to be the guy that's like talking about Elden Ring, you know, 6 months from now when everybody's done talking about it, and I'm like, hey, I just figured out this game's pretty good. And like I did with Outer Wilds, it was like 2 years later, and I'm like, I would have been on my top 10 of the year if I had known.
That was my favorite game. Yeah, my favorite game that year.
Yeah.
So not yet because of the VR ad for Elden Ring that didn't do it for you.
Is there a VR ad for Elden Ring?
Uh-huh.
They're doing VR in Elden Ring?
Not officially.
Oh, it's a mod.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll try it. I'm not gonna not try it.
Yeah.
Or it's out in beta and it's coming. Like people are poking around at it, so it's
That's
a thing.
cool. I want there to be more third-person games in VR. I say this over and over and over again, but
Moss proves that it's possible.
Yeah, it doesn't have to all be first-person. You're there, your hands are the hands thing. It's still great to be immersed in the world and looking at it from pulled back. It's
the Elden Ring one is first person.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I mean,
but also that other stuff you see.
I'll still try. All right. Anything else you wanted to bring up, Paul?
Yeah, so I'll try to make this as fast as possible because I spent way too much time on Gran Turismo.
No such thing.
That's true. I've been playing Advance Wars on GBA, the GBA version of Advance Wars, because I have the cartridge somewhere and I've never played it. I played a little bit of it, but it was just a weird time for me to start playing it anyway. But I bought a little emulation device that I only play things that I currently have and legally own. I would never advise you to just stick to online storefronts that disappear and you can never play those games again. So I've been playing it that way, and it's been wonderful. It's one of those things where I wish this experience, and maybe it does, but I tend to man, I haven't had a chance to talk to y'all about the play date, which I'm so excited to get, which I pre-ordered. I can't wait to get it because I love very niche, like single purpose, or so to speak, devices that are like really weird and that's kind of obnoxious and kind of weird or whatever. But like I have like a mini disc player that I still use that I make mixes on. I can't wait for the play date. Again, I buy dumb peripherals for video games all the time, but there's a beauty again to that simplicity of these older games that I wish existed on mobile, on phone, that just don't. And even if they did, my phone is like my least favorite device to use, because it's not really it's not really great at anything in particular. It just has to be this like blob that just becomes whatever you need it to be, which I don't love. Yeah. So, and also not to mention the fact that if I were to be playing, say, a version of Advance Wars on my phone, which I'm sure probably exists, there'd be notifications from text messages or Slack notifications, or there'd be, this or that. And the device is constantly trying to get you to do something else and just stay attached to it. And there is a beauty to, I bought this guy's little Anbernic, handheld device, which I loaded games that I legally own, obviously, and have backed up myself. So I've been playing those games on there, and one of the games I was deciding to maybe get a copy of and back up and emulate was Chrono Cross. And with the recent release of Radical Dreamers, the edition, I was like, oh, cool, this sounds kind of neat. And me kind of having done a little bit of research, watching that Digital Foundry video where they kind of took a look at how it performs across all the different platforms, cued me into the fact that it actually doesn't run well at all. And apparently the Switch version is better to play handheld because it runs at a lower resolution. So it's just a little better that way. And I got suckered and I bought it. And I've been playing Radical Dreamers because I wanted to play that first before I played Chrono Cross. And I've been really enjoying it. I've loved the revisiting an old format of a game that I never played. I never really played text adventures and those sort of old school style experiences where it's just literally like a list of choices and you're choosing a thing, but the background is being rendered a certain way that reflects the environment that you're in or a character that you're fighting. It's really cool. The music, the sound effects are. I love seeing what they were working with the limitations of the time. I always find that really fascinating to see how creative they had to get, and they get really creative. It's wonderful. Like, it's really well written. There are touching moments between characters, and then I made 20 minutes of progress and messed up, and then I had to do that 20 minutes over, And then I tried to save it and I couldn't do it. And then I messed up again and I had to do that 20. And I was like, okay, you know what? I think I'm done here.
No.
Because turns out it doesn't have save states, which, emulation lets you do. And
Radical Dreamers doesn't have save states?
it doesn't have save states. And it's such a bummer because I was having such a good time with it that I guess my solution for this now is I'm just going to watch a YouTube playthrough from where I was and experience it that way, which is not as great. And hearing about the performance issues and the smudgy like textures of the backgrounds when using this weird AI upscaling method, it really like muddies it up, and using the old textures with the new 3D models doesn't look that great. It's just like another example of Square completely botching one of its like easy like layup ports, in my opinion, because they've done it before. Like they've been able to do like that's how I played Chrono Trigger the first time, was on my 3DS on a DS cartridge, which was excellent. It was basically the game with with cool features and like an incentive to want to get it. And Radical Dreamers doesn't feel like that, and it's such a shame because I was really enjoying it, and now I'm probably just going to emulate it on my device because I'd rather just have save states. You know what I mean? Like, because revisiting some of those older games, for me, that's the biggest hurdle, is bumping into those, time sinks where it's like, oh, I just wasted 30 minutes doing this thing, and now I have to reload. And yeah, it's a bummer. I was loving it, and I'm probably going to love it on my emulation device, but not the official version. So yeah.
Well, that's a perfect segue into talking about your playlist, Christian, because I know you've been playing some older stuff as well.
Yeah, so I was supposed to be in Wyoming right now helping my in-laws with a project, and one of the people I was going to go with to help with some of the technical know-how on the project has COVID. So that trip got canceled. Luckily for us that we're going to go do this thing, and they're doing well. But they had symptoms and tested before we left, because that would have been bad if we were working on some cabin and stuck there for a long time. So with this magical free time, I was like, you know what? And I'll talk about this more on paid DLC, Jeff. Don't you worry. I was like, I need to do something. I need to tackle a project still that I was going to, what am I going to do? So I tackled my garage. And in doing so, in tackling my garage and reading some threads on Reset Era about older games, what does someone do, Jeff, when they have more incredible games that have come out in the first 4 months of this year than they have time? They hook up their PS3 and play old games is what they do.
Perfect. Yes, of course.
I saw it sitting there, and I also texted you some pictures of me playing some Game Boy games on my analog. And as I was going through my garage, each little box was like did I get it done? No. But did I have wonderful memories with each box? I was like, I can't get rid of you, box of precious treasures. Like, I will put you right back where you were for another 2 years until I look at you again. But I came across my PS3 and I fired up 2 games that I put a lot of time into, I should say. Resistance 2 and the first Infamous. So I'm going to change cameras here on the, there we go, on the stream. Remember when people said that the games in that generation were all brown? It just happens to be that, look at the box art for both of these. Oh, this is God of War Ascension. God of War Ascension. Yeah. Resistance 2. Mm-hmm. God of, literally.
Yeah.
The same color palette. For folks just listening, picture brown. But Paul, what you were talking about hits on so many levels, because one, I'll start with a specific game. Resistance 2, I love. Its campaign is paced so perfectly. And I guess what I'm saying is maybe I am a target audience for PS Plow, Jeff, because it is hard to revisit these PS3 games. And that's why I subscribed to PS Now initially, was to revisit some of them even then. Metal Gear Solid 4, I don't know if it exists anywhere else. I guess through PS Now, right? Like, there are games that are trapped on this system. And Resistance 2 I was like, I want to play a little Resistance. And I texted friend of the show, James Stevenson. I was like, memory lane, whatever. And I was like, in my head, I was like, I will now be done with this game. And then I played for 2.5 hours because it has such, dare I say, simple story beat first person shooter pacing of huge set piece, blast through a corridor, open expanse, figure out this shooting gallery as you navigate a open, but yet by today's standards, small open kill box, huge set piece, cool cinematic, navigate this hallway, cool set piece, open kill box. And I'm just like, yeah, it's been 2.5 hours. I'm liking this game.
I'm having fun.
Clearly, exactly. This is fun now. And also in playing was just reminded of so many of the interesting things of the PS3 era. For starters, R1 is aim down the sights and R2 is shoot. For the longest time, Sony didn't put you on the triggers. It was the buttons or the shoulders were the shooty shoots. And two,
because they weren't real triggers back then.
they were kind of squishes.
They're like fatter shoulder buttons. They weren't.
But
they
still,
weren't
Xbox had
triggers.
it. Xbox had it as the down guys.
Because Xbox had actual triggers.
Jeff, I'm trying to make thoughts based on feelings, and you are making thoughts based on facts. Okay. What's that saying? Never let a Jeff get in the way of a good story, I think is how it goes.
Yeah, I do that a lot.
Never let. No, excellent points. I was blown away by how slow everything about getting into a game on the PS3 was and is. We're like, just the thing, like save states, like you're talking about, Paul, like the things you just kind of take for granted now, and especially on Series X and PS5, where it's like, let me pop into the setting, let me do this, let me quick resume this. You know what? Buddies are playing Fortnite. Let me do this. You know what? I'm going to bounce back into this. I guess I'll watch a little bit of Netflix. Let me do this. And I hooked up my PS3, and I was like, I should actually make sure this is outputting at the correct resolution. I mean, I think it is because whatever. And then I go to the menu, and the menu's like, hey, idiot. We have to stop literally everything you're doing right now if you want to do this. Are you sure you want to do this? And I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. And my PS3 was like, cool. Well, we're going to sit on this screen for 20 seconds anyway.
Yeah. Go for a walk. We'll be done in like 3 hours.
Yes. And also like signing in. It's like the whole thing was just this wild trip down memory lane that, yes, is 2 generations ago now, but in my head very much doesn't feel that retro to me. And going back to Resistance 2, I was like, one, I want this franchise to continue. I think it's a cool franchise. The chimera and the ideas in which that world exists is fun and interesting. And the other game, and this will tie into these general thoughts as well, the other game that I ended up spending the most time with was the first Infamous on PS3, which is also, those games are locked onto that console. And Jeff, there is not, there probably is, but of the games I played this weekend, my goodness, does Infamous represent the early aughts and like people in their head will think it's the 90s. It just has this feel, right? It's just like everything about, like, you don't have a walk and it's like you're running, and what's his name? Annoying friend is like, so I remember I thought he was annoying then, but he's so annoying, but like very air quote 90s annoying, but it wasn't the 90s, it was 20.
Like everything is post the Matrix.
Yeah, it's still right. And it was like, and Cole's voice is like, well, I guess I'm gonna be a hero. And you're like, yeah, be a hero. And he's like, because I'm gonna go. Oh, I could do Spice Man better than I can do with my Cole voice. But it just has this like on it. Everything's got a on it.
It's an era when literally every main character of a video game looked exactly the same.
Yep.
Yes. And felt the same on their insides too, you know? Like, and again, L1, R1 were your shooty shoots. But also, I say all that to say, what a wonderful open world game. Because when I launched it at first, I was on a save at the end of the game, and I did one thing. I was like, how did you do this thing? And again, and I literally did this trick that went 100%. That was all I hadn't done. It was like one stunt that I jumped off a building and did. And I was like, well, perfect. Now what do I do? So I started a new game, and it just feels so manageable. As someone who just wrote and did a video essay on a Let's Chat Games about open world gaminess and stuff, like, you're trapped on an island because of technical limitations, yes, but you're stuck on a little part of whatever it is, Manhattan or fictitious Chicago Island or wherever, I forget where you are. And I'm just like, yeah, now I know I 100%ed everything in this game because I can. It doesn't overstay its welcome. My power progress. I already unlocked like 3 power upgrades just in my, hour and a half of playing. It felt like Advance Wars, Paul, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
It just felt like I'm an old, and this was a simpler time of like, remember when games were things that you'd beat in a week? And Elden Ring's like, shut up, jerk. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. And
then Gran Turismo was like, give me your money, punk.
I'm sorry. Gran Turismo was like, do you really want that G9? You can get a direct drive box instead. You're already spending money on it. What's the difference, loser? And I'm like, you're right also.
No, it was an era when it was like, we will sell you the next game. And then somebody went, wait a minute. We can keep selling you this game.
Yeah.
Or you can keep telling you this character in this game. And I'd be like, I will keep buying it. Yeah. All that to say, I'm having tons of fun reminiscing on my PS3, but shocked at the creature comforts that I've quickly taken for granted in my SSD world. Also, gentlemen, I will say, I know it will happen. I know people will become nostalgic for PS3 era graphics the way we have for PS1 era graphics, and I didn't think we would. But my friends, they don't look great.
I disagree with the nostalgia for PS1 graphics.
Oh, no.
I don't. I have lots of nostalgia for 16-bit, pixel, all of that stuff is even ANSI ASCII. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. But the early days of polygons do not look good.
I like it. I like
on
it.
Stream. I have a trailer for it. I mean, and it has like comic book stuff. So folks watching the VOD or on stream, let me get to actual gameplay.
There's
like, you think it's just like a low res YouTube video, but it's like, no. This was it. This is what it looked. It is wild. Also, the other things that we kind of take for granted of like, apparently no one knew fonts back then. I think it was just low res, but like everything is
From Software still doesn't.
Oh, shush your face.
They don't know fonts, Christian. That is an objective fact. They know one font.
But like everything's kind of hard to read because it's like 720p and jaggy, and I'm trying to show some resistance right now. There it is a little bit. It's like this is a real flashy. This is not a good trailer, seizure inducing. But just again, bygone era of things of like my takeaway, and then I'll stop.
What's your takeaway, Christian?
Is it ever good to chase photorealism in your game? The answer is yes, it is, because I'll be like, God of War 2 looks amazing. I love it. But like looking back on it, I'm like, do you know what looks great on PS3? Borderlands 2 looks great.
Wind Waker still looks fire.
Yeah,
looks great.
Art direction.
Yeah,
but
anyway,
that's art. I mean, you know what also still looks great? The first Jurassic Park movie.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's art direction, and they were going for photorealistic dinosaurs, and they were using basically a bunch of PS2s duct taped together. So
yeah,
it's art direction. It's you can go for photorealism and do it in a style that works.
That's true.
If you know your limitations.
But I will say PS3 right now, big fan. I don't know how long it's going to stay hooked up, but it's God of War Ascension I want to play also. I've just barely started. It's before he was a god. It's just so much locked in this library. So yeah, we talked about it a few weeks ago, and I was like, that seems expensive, PS Plow. And now I think I'm just going to bed every night saying my prayer to the PS Plow fairy that the emulation works well, the cloud works well, because there's an era of game here that was like doing the things we're doing now,
yeah,
but doing it in some simplified way that feels friendly.
It's
Yeah,
amazing that
yeah.
your PS3 turned on, frankly.
Yeah, word.
I feel
Why? What
like
are you talk- I keep my stuff in good condition, Jeff.
No,
You always
well,
try to throw me under the Cheeto hands.
I
here.
don't mean I don't mean any reflection on you individually. I just mean that when we changed from sort of mechanical consoles like the NES and the Super NES and the Genesis and stuff to little computers, I feel like they're much more susceptible to just dying on your shelf.
Yeah, they have lasers in them and stuff that need to still work.
Yeah.
And motors and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
little
will say,
batteries that die.
I am a fan. It's always annoying when you're playing an Xbox controller and it dies and you have to find batteries or a battery pack, but neither of my PS3 controllers hold a charge. I wish I could put new batteries in them easily. It's like that's the give and take of like technology great when it's new, technology not great when it's old.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're running super long. I won't take up too much time with my playlist, but I promised I wouldn't talk about Vampire Survivors anymore. But here I am, another week. I got to tell you about Vampire Survivors just briefly because I have basically I can basically get to 30 minutes at will now. This week I got to 30 minutes. So Vampire Survivors, for folks that haven't been listening to this show the last 2 weeks when I have been talking incessantly about it, another game I came too late, but now I'm all about. Vampire Survivors is a game where you are seeing how long you can survive as more and more enemies swarm you. A pixel game. You don't actually aim or shoot. You have a series of power-ups that you earn every time you level up. And you're just moving as they proc, as they shoot off of you in various ways based on their attack type. And the decisions you're making are, how to move, what to do, and what to level up, what choice to pick as you level in the game. And the most you can survive in any given level is a half an hour. So 30 minutes is the cutoff. It's at 30 minutes, a giant demon comes and murders you. And it's not easy to get to that point. At least it wasn't for me for the longest time. Listeners know that I was advocating for garlic. I'm off garlic.
Take that, Gilroy.
Sell
Dang.
garlic. I'm not buying garlic anymore. And a bunch of folks in our Discord were already like, Jeff, garlic does not scale. Get off garlic. And I was like, but I love garlic so much. Garlic, very helpful in the early, your early time with Vampire Survivor. You're like, oh, garlic's magic, as I said for the last 2 weeks. But now I realize the magic of the Bible. The Holy Bible is the sort of area of effect around your character. It's a swirling book that swirls around you that as you level up, it scales. It's amazing. Also, the duplication thing is invaluable. Once you unlock Duplicator, take it every time you can. It duplicates the number of projectiles for any weapon you get. Amazing. And I've fallen in love with Candelabra, which basically increases the size of things, which is very, very helpful as well.
This is a family show, Jeff. You're talking about how long you last and how to increase the size of things and how to double things.
Very
You
important.
gotta slow it down a little bit, buddy.
It's very, very important. Staying power. Anyway, I got to a half an hour. The last 2 minutes before you get to half an hour in Vampire Survivor, get your mind out of the gutters.
Grow up,
Both of you.
Christian. All right.
Hey, this is Tiny Tina's level of humor. I'm still rated
That's
T
true.
for teen. I'm okay.
The last 2 minutes of Vampire Survivors, before you get to a half an hour on any given level, ranks up there as some of the most thrilling moments I've ever experienced in any video game. The pure amount of things that are coming at you and the size and scale of them, the screen is completely full. At a certain point, you can't even move because there are just hordes and I mean, it's incredible. And I love games that show you the hit points as you're attacking, that show you the numbers coming up. And I have so many weapons at that point coming off of me. I was like level, I don't know, 80, I think. I still haven't gotten to level 100, which are achievements for getting to level 100. But at that point, I have so many weapons shooting off of me of such size and power, and they're mowing. I have evolved Fire Wand, which shoots these basically meteors now, these fiery meteors that pass through enemies. I have massive amounts. I have these evolved axes. I have evolved all these things where they get to their evolved state and they transform into something super powerful. And they are just laying waste to all of these things that are coming at me. This screen jam-packed with information, numbers exploding off swaths, leaving these piles and piles of experience pellets that you have to pick up in Vampire Survivors. At the end of the game, the pellets that you get at the beginning of the game are blue. Then you start getting green ones that are even more experienced. And then once in a while, when you get a really special enemy, it'll drop a red one. But by the end of a half an hour, every monster is dropping red experience, and you're just leveling and leveling and leveling. And it just feels like this incredible climax at the end of 30 minutes, Christian.
No, I was being so good.
Incredible climax.
So good.
I've never felt a release like that.
No. Ah!
But in all seriousness, it is a thrilling, just this momentous feeling of being completely OP, unstoppable, untouchable, as the game's baddest bad guys are just coming at you by the hundreds. And you're just these numbers exploding off every edge of the screen. I mean,
wow.
I just needed I needed almost a cigarette afterwards. No, I don't smoke. I'm just trying to.
Well,
on
to cart
Steam
right
Deck?
now.
You hit 30 mins on Steam Deck or on
Steam
big
Deck.
Screen? On Steam Deck. I was wondering if big
I
screen would
only
make
play
it
the game on
easier.
Steam Deck at this point. I only play it on Steam Deck.
Wow.
So, and after I did that, I was like, I can't believe I got to 30 minutes. This is the coolest thing. Wow. And now I can basically just get to 30 minutes every time, which is awesome, but also feels like, am I done with this game? I know that the author of this game has done a great job of having lots of updates and adding new characters and new stuff. So I think I'll keep returning to it. But at this point, I'm like, I love this game so much and I still love playing it, but I'm so powerful. I've leveled up so many things, and I've gotten to the point where I'm just like, I am become death. You know that feeling?
I got to play this game. Yeah, I love that feeling. That's me playing Gran Turismo every day. Yeah, I've heard so many good things about this game, and I've heard you talk about this game. I've seen it. I remember when it came out, it was like a big rallying around it. Like people really liked it. But yeah, this is totally up my alley. I need to check this out already.
It's so great. It's
I think
$3.
$3. Yeah, when it goes on sale, maybe I'll pick it up.
Christian,
It's
yeah,
like,
exactly. Good. Wait,
I gotta
wait
save
for the
up for
Steam
my
stuff.
wheel. I gotta save up for my wheel.
Yes,
So
got him.
All right. And with that, I unless Danish wants to come on and do a special like paid DLC deep dive on Vampire Survivors, I probably won't mention it again. I'm still playing it, but I feel like maybe I should stop.
He mentioned it again.
There It's a very good game, and it's just a genius idea and done so well. So many beautiful details about it. Simple, it's beautiful. It's pick up. You, like I said, the most you can play it. Oh, I forgot to tell you one other cool thing. One other cool thing before we go. I know we're way long, but
it's all right.
And poor Paul's on the East Coast, and he's like,
"No, I'm chilling. I'm good. I'm always up this time." So
okay, good. So you get one of my favorite characters is this character Croce, I think. This demon character, and he comes with a revive, so he gets to come back to life after you die, which is pretty cool. I actually don't even pick him for that. I pick him because he has a 30% movement speed, which is key right out of the gate. But I like him a lot. And you can also, after you go the distance with that guy, you can actually unlock earning more revives as you level up, and you can get a revive. So the first game that I got to the second time I got to a half an hour, I didn't use any of my revives on the way. and I had like 5 revives earned or in the bank, basically waiting to be used. And the coolest thing about Vampire Survivor is that you get to 30 minutes, which is the end of the game. The demon he's on you. It's like killing you. Game over. I'm like, oh, I did it. I got to a half an hour. And it's like, it says game over. And it says revive. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to revive. And I revive and I get to run around and pick up a bunch more orbs again, a bit more. They level up 2 more times. Demon's still on me. Kills, dead. Game over. Revive? I'm like, I got 5 of these? It was the coolest feeling ever. I felt like there's a glitch in the Matrix, but it let me, even though the demon is like, I'm going to kill you every single time, I was still able to level up more. And by the end of the game, it stops letting you earn more attacks. You've like leveled up to a point where it's like, no more, buddy. Sorry, I'm cutting you off. No more. You got to go home. You can't stay here, but you got to go home. And the only thing it lets you pick between is getting some health back or getting money, which you can spend in the, roguelite between games menus. So leveling up at the end is really important because you get a bag of money every time you level up. So I'm like, anytime I can squeeze out a few more levels, and I'm like, I revive. When that demon comes in, he kills everything on the screen. They drop tons of experience little modules, and you just run around as fast as you can before the demon kills you again. So it's this fun little mini game at the end of just using your revives to grab more levels and more money. Anyway, very fun. Very fun game. But that's going to do it for this episode of DLC. We do have parting gifts coming up, so stick around for those. But Paul Tamayo, so much fun having you on. Loving hearing you talk passionately about these games that you love. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you guys. And even just hearing you guys talk about stuff passionately is always like, oh, I got to play that game. So always a pleasure to talk to you guys. And, I'll be around. If you ever need me back, hit me up.
You can bet on it. But in the meantime, tell folks where they can keep up with you and the stuff that you do online.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Polymyo. That's P-O-L-I-M as in Mario, A-Y-O. And yeah, I'm me and my colleague Jordan Mallory. We produce a fleet of amazing podcasts over at FanByte. I would recommend for your audience. We got a few video game shows. We got Channel F. It's a really fun. It's like what if Whose Line or Wait Don't Tell Me was hosted by Jigsaw. So it's like a video game show. It's really great. We've got 99 Potions, which is just more of a long form discussion show. Well, it kind of focuses on RPGs, but it definitely expands, talks about other stuff. We've got Thanks for the Knowledge. It's a weekly news show. We're really proud of our shows. Go check them out. We got 6 of them. Might like one of them at least. So give us a shot. fanbyte.com/podcasts. And that's what I work on week to week. So check us out sometime.
Right on. Christian Spicer, what about you? What do you got going on this week?
Well, I don't know if you know this, Jeff, but apparently after the PS3, Sony made a PS4.
What?
So I am looking forward to hooking
You heard of
that
this?
up. Twitter's the best way.
My understanding is they discovered gray.
I think you might be right. I am excited. Twitter's the best way to see my happenings. It is at Elon is where you can find me there. As he now owns it, at Spicer. And I have my newsletter, Let's Chat Games, 1 or 2 a month, usually long form writing about video games. You can subscribe for free at tinyletter.com/Christian Spicer. And then I do video stuff for this year's show, which you can watch on our Patreon, which is patreon.com/DLC pod, where there are videos on demand of this main show, also of paid DLC. And then when they come out a few days after that, as I can make the video versions of Let's Chat Games as well. And again, that is at patreon.com/DLC pod. So check that out. Oh, I should also say, folks that have bought merch, I'm not wearing my shirt because I've been cleaning all day. My stuff looks great, but a few folks have reached out and they said that like it didn't quite look right. Tell them I've reached out to Spring and was like, hey, we're getting, I'm only aware of 2 folks And they said the best way is to have those folks directly reach out and they will fix it. So if you get something, merch of DLC, that doesn't look exactly as you want it, please reach out to them. And if they throw any roadblocks your way, please reach out to me. And if they don't, I personally will make it right. So I wanted to let folks know about that.
Very cool. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Jeff Kanata, which is spelled with 2 N's and 1 T. Again, if you're interested in that merch, our friend at Jesse J. Anderson made it easy for you to go. You can just go to DLC Swag, DLCSWAG.com. You can find all those cool t-shirts and hats and mugs and stickers. I don't know. So you can go there, check it out, see what we've got. Some fun stuff. Also, if you want to hear me talk about other things, I have other podcasts, including the Filmcast, talking about movies and TV shows. I have a comedy science show called We Have Concerns. You can find those wherever you find podcasts. I also do I call professional football games. What? Yeah, I really do.
Hello, football. Hello, professional football. Hello, can you hear me?
I'm calling.
It's Jeff calling. Hello.
I'm in the booth with like real amazing college football great Devin Gardner and Greg Meskel. It's incredible. It's really an amazing experience, and I hope you check it out. FCF.io or twitch.tv/FCF. We're on Saturdays at 1 p.m. Eastern time is when I broadcast. I do the first 2 games of the day. A different team does the second 2. But it's pretty cool. And you can email us here, dlcfeedback@gmail.com. All right. Let's wrap the show up now with our parting gifts. Forgot to do it, so hang on a second.
Hey, give us a suggestion.
I saved you guys from that. I didn't do it.
Hey, give us a suggestion of what to do this week. Give us a parting gift. This is your parting gift.
Paul, do you have a suggestion to help people get through their week?
Yes, it got me through my week. People have been yelling at me for weeks to watch Severance, and I finally did. I didn't even know what it was about. I hadn't seen any trailers for it. I was like, Adam Scott, and I'll hit play on this. And holy moly, I was not prepared for the ride that it was going to take me on. It's 9 episodes. It's on Apple TV Plus, and it's totally like in my wheelhouse. I love that kind of sci-fi, interesting character study thing happening. That like I was a big Lost fan back in the day, and like I don't know, I love that kind of pulling the thread and trying to find out the mystery behind everything. And it does some really interesting things visually and like from a filmmaking perspective. It's great all around. I would the less I say the better. Honestly, like don't even watch a trailer for it. Just watch it cold. It's great. It's one of those things that like. It reminds me like, oh, you could just do this. You could just do really cool things like this. And kind of like in a different way, the same way I felt about like Everything Everywhere All at Once recently when watching that halfway through going like, wait, like we could have just been doing this the whole time, like in terms of these kinds of genres. So yeah, it's great. I loved it. I don't even want to say too much about it. Just trust me. It's great.
100% agree. And it totally sticks the landing.
Yes.
What a great
absolutely.
Final episode of the season. Oh my goodness.
So brilliant. Yeah. So brilliant.
With a broken ankle, but USA still got gold, baby.
Carrie Strug. Severance is the Carrie Strug of highly rated TV shows.
All the Gen Zers out there, you know what we're talking about. You remember that.
Christian Spicer, what is your parting gift?
Well, my parting gift is, Paul, people listening to this show don't know what you mean when you say Gen Zers because we're all so old. We're like millennials.
It's for the two out there listening.
Okay, cool. My parting gift is it is spring and do some cleaning. Man, it's not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie and say that it wasn't a lot of work for me, but invest in yourself. Take the time, go through some of your old boxes or clutter or whatever you have laying around, or just like take the time and really clean that bathroom, put in the work, and I bet it will give you a wonderful trip down memory lane if you're cleaning boxes and clearing out some stuff that you've maybe moved with you many times, and the box is still unopened from all those moves. But by gosh, you got to bring it with you. You can have really good times, and they can lead to fun conversations and fun memories. So do that spring cleaning. And Jeff, come Wednesday, I want to talk to you about some nostalgia stuff and kind of how physical media can pull at my heartstrings in particular.
Love it. Can't wait to talk about that. But get off my back about the cleaning. Doing the best I can over here.
I'll get to the bathroom.
I was going to do a different parting gift, but because Paul brought up, like, can we have been doing this the whole time? I'm going to bring up something that I watched this week that I highly, highly recommend. That is along those lines. Feels like of a type with Everything Everywhere All at Once and Severance, which are two of my favorite things ever that both happen to be in the same year. Here's another one that I think is I'm going to be talking about the end of the year as well. It's a new movie called The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, starring Nick Cage. And it's another one where you could go in without knowing anything and have a great, great time. It is very funny, very fun. Maybe my favorite Nick Cage movie ever, possibly.
Whoa.
Which is kind of saying a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's great. Highly recommend. Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I think it opened on Friday, I believe, wide. So lots of opportunities to see it. We got a listener suggested parting gift. Last week we heard from Jordan Clark. I'm going to hear from Jordan Clark again because this is we're going a little long. So rather than doing the lengthy parting gift, I'll save that for next week. We'll do this shorter parting gift that Jordan sent us with his first one. Jordan said a second parting gift is for parents of young children or teachers even. An app called Novel Effect. This app has a large library of books to choose from, and as you read to your children or students, it listens through your phone's microphone and plays sound effects along with the story. It is seriously awesome and really levels up the reading experience. I've always enjoyed reading to my toddler, but now I'm asking her if I can read to her instead of the other way around. It's $60 a year, but well worth it in my opinion. There are some ebooks available on the app, but most you'll need a print copy. That sounds really cool. Anyway, that's Jordan Clark sending that to dlcfeedback@gmail.com. I never heard of Novel Effect, but what a clever idea. It is novel, indeed. If you'd like to have your parting gift read on our show, send it to us, dlcfeedback@gmail.com. That's going to do it for this episode of DLC. Thanks again to Paul Tamayo and Christian Spicer for hanging out with me. Thanks to our musical contributors, Patrick L., Sean Madigan, and Zero Star for making those bumpers. The DLC theme song was created by White Cube, which is Jason Sherry and T. Ryan Arnold. Oh, wait. We also need to thank our top tier patrons at patreon.com/DLCpod. Those hype train patrons. Here you go. Yeah, it's time to thank Jason Novak, Octavian Rapsio, Taylor Wiggert, Christian Bravery, P.S. Wee, Clifton Satterfield, Jad, Josh Peak, Nick Strauss-Klein, Peter Oberg, Michael Stadler, Michael Buck, and Jackson Slag the Watashima Henny, Tavis, Soren Silk, Mike Lombardo, Spiceman Silencer, yeah, Albert of the Stuff and Junk Podcast, Zachary White, Stu Goss, Jonathan Spiceman Forever, Schlepper, Jenny and Kevin Brazell, Nate and Ben, Neil Shaw, Scott Hughes, Lloyd Nance, The Switch Bit, and Dan Palomino. Malcolm King, Mark Gowland, Awesome U.S. Movies, and Jimmy Radcliffe, Jonathan Putney, and Mitchell Ness, Will with 1L Harris, and Jeff Luck Zach. It's Matt Bradley, Chris Zacharias, Victor Valenzuela, Jonathan Talbert, Scooby Diesel, Cheesy Bomb, Adam Denby, and Hank Patton, Sasan, Riley Knox, Dan Flanagan, Rob Ricksman, Anthony Gulas, and Kyle Starr. Don't forget, Andy Joyce, My Choice. All of you, all of you, all of you, all of you. Thank you. Hype Train patrons, thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for supporting the show. All right. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week. Until then, think about what you put out into the world. Make it a better place.